Let's start this episode off with a huge shout out to this week's badass boss babe, Amanda Rose. Her Instagram account is at ARCDESIGNSTUDIOS, so you can check her out. Amanda reached out to me this last week with a lot of questions and really needed some validation that she can 100% turn her passion into a full-time business. Amanda, I just want to thank you for reaching out, for connecting with me and communicating with what was on your heart, what was on your mind, what you were struggling with, so that we could work together and I could guide you in a more positive direction and just cheer you on. So you totally got this, and I can't wait to see how your journey unfolds. Welcome back, my friends, to the Badass is the New Black podcast. I'm your host, KRISSY Chin. Here on the podcast, I help guide you to stand out online in this noisy world. Now more than ever, everyone is going online due to all this social distancing. So it's getting noisier and noisier, but it's also a great time because so much more of your audience is online paying attention. So I'm also here to help you through this podcast, through these episodes, to market your product or service in a more sexy, non-salesy, sleazy kind of way. And then, of course, my favorite that I love to talk about is automation. So helping you automate your business so that you can work less and enjoy more. Can we also agree to call it physical distancing and not social distancing? Because we are very much still in need of this social interaction with people. We just apparently can't stay within 6 feet of each other. So let's still be social online, still be doing these Zoom calls with our team, with our friends and family to connect, FaceTime, all of those things while we keep our physical distance online, right? And maybe even we're halfway across the world. That's the beauty of going online. Today, I want to talk about communication. Today, communication is more important than ever. And when things change and get harder, we often shut down and we really stop communicating with the people in our lives. But this is the time to really fine-tune your communication skills. Ever since I started thinking about this topic, I've noticed that we have the opportunity to communicate with people all day long, every single day. And when communication is on point, life really seems to get in this flow state where, it's in a positive, things are moving forward, and it just feels like it flows. And when we're lacking in communication, life in business gets really, really hard. There are many, many times that I feel really misunderstood or really angry or really frustrated with other people. And I've started to analyze not only why that's happening, but how can I change this so that I don't feel so misunderstood so often, or that I don't get so angry so often or so frustrated with people. And it really, really starts with communication. When I feel misunderstood, I realize that I need to communicate a little more to clear up the air. When I am frustrated, it's often because someone isn't responding to me in a way I need, but the question is, did I communicate everything that I needed to set them up for success? Same when I'm really angry or when I'm really frustrated. Am I communicating that to the other person in an effective way, or am I just bottling it up inside, holding this grudge against them, and it's causing friction in the relationship? So communication really, really makes the world go round. I 100% believe that. And during this pandemic, there was not much communication maybe in the beginning, and it really sent people into a panic, a lot of this unknown, right? Because of lack of communication. And we're still seeing that fear and panic really take over people's lives. Today, I went to go work in my office where I am right now. And my husband was sitting in the chair, and he's been going into the office while some people have been staying home because there's literally no one in the office. So he's like, it's the next safest place to be because literally there's no one there, and I would never get anything done if I was home with you guys. And I'm like, yeah, and you would be taking over my office, which I don't want you to do. So I show up in the office to come sit down and record this episode, and he's sitting in the chair. And so I'm like, okay, before any words fly out of my mouth, how can I communicate effectively so that we don't get in an argument about who gets the office? So I started and I asked him some questions, good morning, how did you sleep? Starting the mood off light. And then just asked him some questions about his schedule. What do you have going on today? Is it you're not going into the office? And I was trying to listen as he communicated with me what his day was looking like to see if there were any spots in there that he could maybe move to another room to do his work. Once he shared his day, there wasn't really any obvious time slots that I could just slip in there like, okay, great. Seems like you're not doing anything between this time and this time. So I'm going to hop in that chair. And do you mind if I record my podcast? So I simply just said, okay, I'm happy to work from the guest room today, but I do need to record a podcast, which might take 30 minutes. I would really prefer to do it in the office with the good light and the microphone. See, I was communicating with him why I really needed to be in the office, not just because I wanted to be and that's where I am, but like there were some valid reasons of why I really would like to record in the office. And so he communicated back with some times that were ideal for him. And we worked it out and it's fine. And here I am in the office with the good light and the nice microphone. And you're probably hearing all the rain on the skylight maybe. But here I am. So here's the deal. Most people are not good at communication. They are not good communicators. They do not communicate at all. And we tend to mirror what we experience. So when someone's not communicating with you, they're not talking to you, they're not giving you the details, you get frustrated and then you don't communicate back with them. And it's this vicious cycle of not communicating. And so I am going to challenge you to be the bigger person and to really work on communicating with people so that you set the tone by communicating. Because when you communicate with someone, they will hopefully reciprocate and communicate back with you. And if they aren't, you can ask for more communication with them. But you're at least doing your part to communicate, right? Okay, so I'm going to give you some little examples and stories about communication, and you can take in what you want and you can leave the rest right here in the podcast. So I'm in this neighborhood chat with a bunch of girls. And of course, this whole, everything that's going on in the world keeps coming up in this group chat. And there's like 8 of us or 10 of us on there. So, it's a lot of pinging back and forth. I have a bit of a different view on things. So as they send resources, I send resources back, or maybe a few off the wall comments that maybe they weren't expecting. And all of a sudden, one of the girls leaves the group. She didn't communicate why she was leaving. She just left. All of a sudden it said, Becky left the group. So of course, in my brain, I immediately go to, well, she didn't like what I had to say. She left that group without saying anything. And now, oh my God, she probably hates me. Oh my gosh, this is going to be so awkward when I go outside and the kids are playing. How am I supposed to act? Am I supposed to act normal and just like, because maybe she's not really mad at me, or am I supposed to act distant because she is mad at me, or she hates me now because we have different views? Like what, just this, like my brain is exploding. Has this ever happened to you where you are literally jumping to conclusions? You're literally going down that rabbit hole with the worst thing possible because you have no idea what's going on in that other person's head because they have not communicated that with you. And so you're just jumping to conclusions, right? Okay, so that was me in that moment of like, great, now my neighbor hates me. This is going to be wonderful when we can go, hang out again. So I had 2 options. I could just assume that she now hated me and not really know how to act and kind of feel uncomfortable and just kind of play off of her as based on how she was going to act with me. Or, light bulb, I could reach out and start a little communication with her to see what was up. Okay. So of course, everything is easier over text. So I pump myself up. I'm like, all right, got to get ready. I'm gonna send this text. It very well could come back that she hates me, but maybe she doesn't. Maybe there was another reason and I have to find out. So I sent the text over. I just said, hey, I noticed you left the girls' neighborhood chat. Was it because you didn't like what I said, or that you don't really want to talk about coronavirus right now? I didn't mean to make anyone uncomfortable. So that was it. Super simple. Just sent that over. It took her a little bit to respond, but she did finally answer. And her response was, no, not at all. While I don't necessarily agree with, what you said, we are all entitled to our own opinions. And I actually left because the boys were doing science on the computer and the text kept pinging through and I just had to act quickly and get it off the screen. So I just left the group. So here's a perfect example of how lack of communication could lead to a bunch of misunderstandings. But because I took the opportunity and I went to set the tone and communicate, it prevented a lot of awkwardness between us, right? Let's take a tiny little break from this badass podcast to talk about Kajabi, or as my husband calls it, Punjabi. Babe, it starts with a K. Kajabi. This is the platform that literally makes all the magic happen. It's plug and play, no coding necessary. And guess what, you guys? The best thing about it is that you get your very own mobile app with it. I looked into building an app and it was going to be over $100,000. You get your own right there. The platform is so affordable too. So instead of paying for individual platforms like your CRM system, which is going to host your email, your landing pages, which is going to capture your email, your website, which is going to be where all the magic happens, a community space, it's literally all in one. So it doesn't matter if you want to host courses, educational classes, have libraries in there for your team. This is absolutely the way to go. And I have a month free for you to check it out. So hop over to my website, THEKRISSYCHIN.com/Kajabi, Kajabi, and you can check out a month for free. I cannot wait to see what you create. Please do me a favor, send me a DM, send me an email once you've created something so I can see it and check it out. Can't wait for you to get started and scale your business like a badass boss. All right, let's get back to the podcast. All right, communicating could be what helps you keep your job. I had to let a contractor go, and it really all came down to lack of communication. When I really sit back and think about it all, they weren't communicating with what they were working on. So the whole time I was thinking they weren't really doing much work because they weren't telling us what they were doing. And maybe it was like behind the scenes stuff that I wasn't seeing right up front and center. Or we asked for more communication. We wanted some reports. And while they agreed to do that, they didn't actually come through and keep up with the report. So the communication just wasn't there. And so it just kind of came down to, it was, making me a little bit frustrated, and, just decided, Claire and I decided that for our business that this just wasn't working out. So, think about how you are performing in your business, or if you work for someone else, where's the communication there? Are you communicating effectively? Here's another scenario. I have 2 contractors that live in the UK. And with the 8-hour time difference, we are literally never working at the same time because I do not get up until about 9 a.m. So I don't get to my desk until about 9:30. By that time, they're ending their day working. And then when they're working, I'm sleeping. So communication in real time is a challenge. They will email me a question, and then I'll send them an answer. So they'll email me a question while I'm sleeping, and then I get up and I send them the simple response. But it's after hours, so that's the evening for them, and then they go to sleep. And then while I'm sleeping, they then respond to that question. And then when I wake up and get to my office, I then reply back to that. So sometimes it takes 2 days to move forward on a project because they ask me a question and then it takes a day for me to respond. And then they have a clarifying question and then it takes a day for me to respond. And so now that I've realized that is the reality, that we're not really communicating in real time and it may be a process, I try and over communicate. So I'm like, okay, we have a problem here. How can I solve this? I'm just going to over communicate. I am going to try to anticipate all of the other questions that may arise and give them as much information as humanly possible so that there isn't this back and forth and it takes 3 days to be able for them to move forward in the project. Okay, so again, communication. Where is there the lack of communication? How can I communicate more effectively? And sometimes I can't anticipate all of the other questions that they're going to need answered, but at least I'm trying. All right, here's another thought. When it comes to your brand and your business, how effective are you at communicating your overall message? Do you even know what your message is? So that's maybe the first main question. What the heck is your message? And are you communicating it effectively? Are you communicating it? I'm gonna get my words jumbled. Communicating it in a way that will grab your audience's attention and draw them in. How are you communicating the way that you're selling? Are you telling them why they need it? Are you communicating how to get it in a very simple way? Or are you making it super complicated so that they just turn around, stop doing anything, and they don't follow through with the order, right? All of this has to do with communication and getting someone the information. So these are actually the things with this messaging and making sure you're communicating in an effective way. These are some of the things that I'm really going to teach you how to do in my new course, Build a Blissful Business. It was actually called Brilliantly Branded before, so many of you recognize that name, but I had to change it. So if you already joined the waitlist for Brilliantly Branded, I will be communicating with you very soon in an email that we're changing the name to Build a Blissful Business. Same course, different name. And it'll be amazing. But this is something that we're going to really dive into and make sure that your message is on point, because your message matters, and how you put your message out there really matters. And I have a bonus in there that's going to help you get even more clear on how to effectively communicate with your audience to sell more, because that is really important. So if you have not jumped on the waiting list, do so now. And I'll put the link in the show notes on the podcast, or if you're watching this on YouTube, I will go ahead and stick it in that little section where all the words are. You know where to find it. But you can also always go to my website, THEKRISSYCHIN.com, and under Work With Me, there's courses. You can select Build a Blissful Business. All right. So want to know how I know when I'm not communicating something effectively to my audience? I get a bunch of emails with very confused people. So that is a tall tale sign that, oh boy, I did not communicate something very effectively. This has happened to me several times. So every time I write an email, I read it, I reread it, I put on my cap of like, okay, if I didn't know exactly what I was trying to say, because I'm on the other end receiving this email, would it make sense? Is it really clear? Is it communicating in an effective way? Sometimes I'll even have someone that's not associated with anything. Like, I'm not going to have Claire, my partner in Grow Workspace, read the email because she knows what I'm trying to communicate. I'm going to have someone else read it who doesn't really know what's going on, so that they can take a look at it and tell me if it makes sense. Because I know exactly what I'm trying to say, but sometimes it doesn't come out right when you're crafting that message on your email or on your website, right? So there are so many things to think about when it comes to how you communicate. Also the thought of, when I'm communicating this, am I making someone feel more positive, or is it really bringing someone down? So even the words that you use can make someone feel a certain way. And so really understanding your brand and your business, what you want someone to feel when they come experience your brand, you need to make sure that in your communication that is happening with your words. If you want them to feel happy and empowered, then you need to be communicating in a specific way to make sure that they're feeling happy and empowered when they read your content or listen to your content. Right? All right. So I want to challenge you, while you have all this time sitting at home, literally with not much else to do except for maybe homeschool the children, clean the house. Okay, so I know you have a lot of things to actually do, but during your work time that you're sneaking in there, I would love for you to sit there and analyze the relationships that you have in your life, whether it's family members, whether it's friends, whether it's business relationships, and think about how you are communicating with everyone. And Think about if you're communicating in a positive way or in a negative way, and how can you make your message between those people a lot clearer. Okay, how much more could be improved in your life or your business if you took the time to improve your communication skills? I bet quite a bit. Or even if you just communicated more. Again, like I said, most people just don't communicate. So if you actually just communicated, that is the best starting place to be. All right, so I'd love to hear how this episode impacted you and your function on a daily basis, because I know as soon as I started paying attention to this, it made a world of a difference literally in every aspect and relationship in my life. So I would love to know what resonated with you. Maybe there was one of the stories that I told that really stood out to you. So I love to connect with you. Go ahead and send me a DM or a PM on Instagram or Facebook. It's THEKRISSYCHIN, so just the fancy, KRISSYCHIN, KRISSYCHIN, and I would love to connect with you. And maybe that will even get you a little shout out on the podcast or on the Friday email for being one of our badass boss babes or bros. All right, you guys, I will see you next week, and I can't wait to see how life improves with better communication. Bye.